This girl came to work due to her family's poverty, but on her very first day, she made a mistake. As a mall greeter, she mistakenly treated a VIP like an ordinary customer. A car that had already driven past reversed back. The wealthy young man inside made a dismissive hand gesture. Ji-yeon immediately ran over and knelt on one knee. He angrily demanded, "Didn't you see the license plate?" Ji-yeon hurried to check the plate and realized this was the mall's VIP client. She quickly explained that she had directed herself to the wrong entrance and apologized profusely. But Junwoo remained unforgiving, insisting that her failure to make the gesture meant she was ignoring him. Ji-yeon paused. Then her face broke into a wide smile. She performed a full set of welcoming gestures to express her hospitality. But as soon as the car drove off, her colleague whispered that the rich kid was a lunatic. Only then did she realize her microphone was still on. Clearly, Junwoo in the car had heard everything. Junwoo stormed out of the vehicle. He assumed Ji-yeon had spoken disrespectfully. A colleague rushed over to explain but was shoved aside by Junwoo. Ji-yeon immediately tried to reason with Junwoo. This only fueled his rage further. He kicked a nearby roadblock flying. The alarmed manager rushed over, demanding Ji-yeon apologize to Junwoo immediately. It turned out Junwoo wasn't just a VIP customer here, he was the second son of the LK Group chairman. If this incident wasn't handled properly, everyone here could lose their jobs. To protect her colleagues, Ji-yeon had no choice but to apologize. Yet Junwoo, high and mighty, remained unsatisfied with her apology. Urged on by the manager, Ji-yeon actually knelt before Junwoo, begging for his forgiveness. Seeing the girl kneeling on the floor, Junwoo realized he might have overreacted this time. He muttered a self-comforting remark and left. In truth, he wasn't an unreasonable, spoiled rich kid. His recent frustration stemmed from a family-arranged marriage forcing him to wed Sora, a wealthy heiress he didn't love. With no outlet for his pent-up emotions, he took it out on his staff. But the incident didn't end there. A passerby captured Ji-yeon kneeling and posted the video online. The negative publicity caused the group's stock price to plummet. His father flew into a rage, harshly reprimanding Junwoo. He accused his son of rebelling against the arranged marriage. Junwoo dared not utter a word, only promising his father that he would resolve the matter in oneself. Junwoo then sought out Ji-yeon, offering her money to settle the incident. He believed that Ji-yeon had deliberately kneeled and leaked the photos online in order to extort money. Though Ji-yeon came from a poor background, she deeply despised such behavior from rich second-generation heirs. Her earlier kneeling had been to protect her colleagues from being implicated. Ji-yeon's words clearly enraged Junwoo. Suddenly, a sharp headache struck him, and he collapsed unconscious. Ji-yeon patted Junwoo's arm, realizing he wasn't faking it, and rushed him to the hospital. Recalling Junwoo's earlier harsh attitude, she prepared to leave, but several people in the ward were glaring at her menacingly. When Junwoo regained consciousness, the doctor delivered an unbearable truth. He had late-stage brain cancer, with no more than 6 months to live. The news struck Junwoo like a bolt from the blue. Stepping out of the hospital, he bumped into Ji-yeon, who had come to return something, but Junwoo was in no state to engage with her. Ji-yeon insisted on repaying him the money. Before she could retrieve it, Junwoo walked away alone. Back in his car, Junwoo finally shed his tough facade of oneself. A complex wave of emotions instantly flooded his heart. Fear and unease surged within him, yet he had no one to confide in. That day, Junwoo came to celebrate his fiancée's birthday. His secretary promptly handed him a 100-carat diamond necklace. To Sora, the arranged marriage partner his father had chosen, he would feign affection and say, "I love you," but he did all this merely to appease the photographers nearby. Once the reporters departed, he shed his facade and smashed his wine glass to the floor. Ji-yeon and Sora shared the same birthday, yet their celebrations stood in stark contrast. Ji-yeon beamed with joy at the simple gift from her boyfriend Min-sik. When Min-sik suggested postponing their wedding for a more stable future, the kind-hearted Ji-yeon readily agreed. That evening, Sora received a call from Junwoo, but when she rang the doorbell, the one who opened it was a woman in a red nightgown, her face flushed with drunkenness. Unable to accept what she saw, she stepped inside. The room was a complete mess. Junwoo lay passed out on the bed, utterly drunk. Sora knew exactly what had happened. She looked at the drunken woman before her. As Junwoo's fiancé, a wave of intense humiliation washed over her. Disappointed, she left the room and headed toward the pool. The red-clad woman clearly sensed Sora's discomfort and hurried after her to explain. Junwoo just wanted someone to drown his sorrows with himself. The girl even laughed and told Sora, Your boyfriend probably really doesn't want to marry you. This hit Sora right where it hurt. She swung her purse at the red-clad woman. Junwoo had never liked her because their marriage was an arranged family deal. Now even a lowly hostess dared mock her. She couldn't tolerate this. For the money she'd endured in silence before. Still seething, Sora pulled out a wad of cash and flung it into the pool in humiliation. As she walked down the corridor, she noticed her bag was splattered with blood. Without a second thought, she tossed it into a nearby trash bin. Inside, the woman in red silently wiped the tears from her face. Forgetting the humiliation she'd just endured, she staggered toward the pool. As she reached to scoop the money from the water, a sudden dizziness overtook her, and she plunged headfirst into the pool. Jae-hai had once been a well-behaved girl, though her family was poor, sharing a bunk bed with her sister Ji-yeon, and they'd often bicker over who would get up to turn off the alarm clock. Her sister Ji-yeon doted on her endlessly. Every morning, Ji-yeon would prepare breakfast with endless creativity, but their mother had fallen into a gambling addiction. She gambled away every last penny the family had, racking up enormous debts. Creditors came knocking repeatedly to demand payment. The family survived solely on Ji-yeon's meager wages. This time, their mother had taken the 10 million won Ji-yeon was keeping safe for Junwoo, and once again, she gambled it all away. With the house on the verge of being repossessed by creditors, Jae-hai, still in school, took a night job at a club to help her mother repay the debt. Unexpectedly, she lost her life on her very first night working. Junwoo woke up to find the woman he'd called the night before floating lifeless in the pool. After calling out to her twice, she showed no response. Realizing something was terribly wrong, Junwoo immediately jumped into the water and pulled her out. But it was too late. Jae-hai had already passed away. At that moment, Min-sik, a lawyer at the Cheon conglomerate, approached with his superior. They recognized the woman as Jae-hai, the younger sister of Min-sik's girlfriend, Ji-yeon. Min-sik stared at Junwoo in disbelief. Yet Junwoo, still groggy from the previous night's drunkenness, was completely bewildered. He couldn't comprehend how someone who had been fine yesterday could suddenly die in his room. Ji-yeon, alerted to the news, rushed to the scene. The moment she saw her sister's body, she collapsed to the ground, wailing in heart-wrenching grief. She could never have imagined her beloved sister would leave her so suddenly, without warning. Min-sik, however, recalled discovering his own pen at the scene. It was the very pen Junwoo's fiancée, Sora, had taken earlier. He seemed to suspect something, but said nothing. Soon, Jae-hai's body was taken away by the police. Junwoo was also brought to the police station for questioning, but just as he sat in the police car, an officer called him out, saying he could go home. As the first witness at the scene, Min-sik and his superior were summoned by the chairman. Chairman Min asked their opinions on the matter. Based on the pen found at the scene, Min-sik had already guessed Sora was involved. Yet when questioned by the chairman, he stated the victim had injuries to her head. Perhaps Junwoo struck her after drinking. She accidentally fell into the pool and drowned. After sobering up, Junwoo likely forgot what oneself had done. After hearing Min-sik's theory, President Min produced 2 checks and instructed them to resolve the matter swiftly. Later, Min-sik confronted Sora, presenting the pen found at the crime scene. He asked if she had been there, but Sora flatly denied it. Min-sik told Sora he only wanted to know what truly happened that night. Sora insisted the incident had nothing to do with oneself. Returning home, Min-sik pondered the chairman's words. Caught between oneself, a longtime lover and the vast fortune within one's grasp, one faced a dilemma. Sunja, fleeing creditors, couldn't even attend her youngest daughter's funeral. Worse still, Ji-yeon now couldn't even afford her sister's burial expenses. Witnessing this, Min-sik chose to leave. Later, he sought out Sora again. He told her he'd check the surveillance footage immediately after the incident. I discovered you entered and exited Junwoo's room that night. He then produced a USB drive, stating the original footage had been deleted. Faced with the evidence, Sora had to admit she'd been at the crime scene that night and struck Jae-hai on the head. By now, Min-sik fully understood that Jae-hai had been indirectly killed by Sora. Helpless, Sora asked Min-sik what to do. Min-sik told her oneself that he'd handle it and left her with the only remaining surveillance footage. Soon after, he found Ji-yeon, but he reported that Jae-hai was alone in the hotel, with no one accompanying her. When the police questioned Junwoo about whether anyone else had visited that night, Junwoo recalled calling Sora to come over and tell her that he couldn't marry himself, yet he lied to the police. Later, he confronted Sora, demanding where she had gone after receiving his call that night. Sara forced herself to remain calm and told Junwoo that she had gone on a date with another man. Faced with Sora's answer, Junwoo was speechless. After all, one hadn't been kind to her before. Meanwhile, his secretary brought in privately investigated files on Jae-hye's family. Junwoo scolded him for acting without permission, then crumpled the papers into a ball. Once his subordinate left, he unfolded the paper again and saw the woman one had once known. He never imagined Jae-hye was that woman's sister. The next day, Ji-yeon received notification from the police station that her sister had committed suicide after drinking. This conclusion was utterly unconvincing to her. Furious, Ji-yeon stormed to the police station. There, an officer presented a phone, revealing Jae-hye had left a will before her death. It was a text message drafted but never sent. Ji-yeon begged the police to reopen the investigation, but the officer only urged her to calm down. Just then, the chief happened to pass by. Ji-yeon clung to this as her last lifeline. She desperately pleaded for the investigation into her sister's case not to be closed, even kneeling before the chief. But the chief coldly pushed her hand away and hurried off with his entourage. This scene was witnessed by Junwoo, who had just arrived. Seeing Ji-yeon collapsed on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably, he was reminded of the same despair he felt when his mother died. Seeing it as a sign of his own fate, he desperately wanted to know if it was indeed himself who killed Jae-hye. With no other options, Ji-yeon turned to Min-sik, pleading for his help in investigating her sister's cause of death. But Min-sik told her that Jae-hye had indeed died by suicide. He handed her a business card, saying, "Go find this person, and you'll learn the truth." Ji-yeon followed the address on the card to Taemin. Taemin revealed, "Your sister worked for me in a special profession for several years. Whenever the family needed money, Jae-hye often spoke of wanting to end her life due to the family's pressures." A despondent Ji-yeon returned to her sister's funeral. Staff informed her a man had just covered the burial expenses. Ji-yeon rushed outside, thinking it was her boyfriend Min-sik, but he was nowhere to be seen. Junwoo, hiding in a corner, watched this pitiful woman. It was Junwoo who had paid Jae-hye's funeral expenses. Ji-yeon dialed Min-sik's number again, but there was no answer. At that moment, Min-sik was handing a completed check to President Min. Seeing the check, President Min's eyes widened in shock. Min-sik had written a staggering 100 billion won. Junwoo still couldn't grasp whether it was oneself who had truly taken a life. He had been silently watching Ji-yeon's every move from afar. Each time he saw her wrenching cries, his sense of guilt grew more intense. Knowing his time was short, Junwoo visited his mother's grave. Perhaps it was the kindness hidden deep within him. He felt he must uncover the truth before he died, so he hired professionals to restore the surveillance footage. The footage was recovered, yet still revealed nothing. What he didn't know was that this was all Min-sik's doing. The professional had been bribed by him long ago. Even Taemin, whom Ji-yeon was sent to find earlier, was part of his plan. The unsample found in Jae-hye's phone by the police was also Min-sik's creation. Meanwhile, the only copied surveillance file he had was thrown into the sea by Sora. Ji-yeon refused to believe her sister committed suicide. After much turmoil, she finally decided to request an autopsy for her sister. But the moment she hung up with the police, Min-sik received word her sister's body had been taken away by the police. Ji-yeon collapsed in agony, slumped in the rain. How could she have known that the one orchestrating everything behind the scenes was her boyfriend of 6 years? Ji-yeon watched as the coroner made the first incision into her sister's body. She endured the fear and guilt within her, waiting for the results. The autopsy concluded, but the pathologist's findings were unbearable for Ji-yeon. The report stated Jae-hye died from drowning while intoxicated, with only minor head injuries. Clearly, this was all orchestrated by Min-sik. Though Ji-yeon couldn't accept this outcome, she had no choice but to resign herself to it. After cremating her sister's remains, she returned home in a daze. There, she found a middle-aged man cooking in her kitchen. The man informed Ji-yeon that her mother had mortgaged the house to oneself. Ji-yeon stared at the documents he presented. She never imagined her mother had not only accumulated massive debts but also failed to attend her sister's funeral. As she packed her belongings to leave, she spotted the gift her sister had intended to give herself. Just as Ji-yeon prepared to depart, the man blocked the doorway. He made a lewd suggestion, implying she could stay with oneself if she had nowhere else to go. Junwoo suddenly appeared and stopped the man. With nowhere to go, Ji-yeon sat on the roadside, looking at the birthday gift her sister had given her. The happy times of the past seemed like yesterday. A long-lost smile finally appeared on her face, but as she smiled, Tears still flowed uncontrollably. Junwoo, unable to leave her alone, watched silently from the car. Ji-yeon walked on her own in the rain, letting the water drench her cheeks. The world was vast, yet she knew nowhere to go. Vehicles raced past her with a deafening roar. Her sister's death, her mother's flight. At this moment, she felt life held no meaning left. Junwoo hurriedly got out of the car, darted through the rushing traffic, and pulled Ji-yeon into his arms. Then, furious, he snapped, "Are you trying to get yourself killed?" The rain grew heavier, as if the heavens wept for these two young souls burdened by fate. Junwoo resolved to protect the woman before him for the time he had left. Ji-yeon was puzzled by this sudden display of concern. Junwoo couldn't possibly tell Ji-yeon oneself his true intentions, so he made up an excuse, demanding that Ji-yeon repay the 10 million won. And just like that, Ji-yeon was ushered into Junwoo's car. Truthfully, he feared Ji-yeon might do something reckless in her current state. Unbeknownst to Junwoo, another scheme targeting him was already brewing. Junsu, learning his half-brother Junwoo might have killed Jae-hae, gathered numerous media outlets to expose the truth. He was determined to crush this half-brother beneath his feet. Min-sik intervened, urging him to reconsider revealing everything to the press. He knew the truth better than anyone. Exposing this to the media would only backfire on him. But Junsu, consumed by ambition, wouldn't listen to a subordinate's advice. Sora, who had heard the news, also arrived at the scene. She threatened Junsu with the fact that he had secretly purchased company shares using someone else's identity. But Junsu couldn't care less. Upon hearing the news, Junwoo left Ji-yeon in the car and appeared at the press conference himself. The atmosphere at the brothers' meeting instantly turned tense. Junwoo demanded to know what his brother truly wanted. Junsu stated bluntly, "Hand over 50% of the company shares under your name." Everyone watched Junwoo with bated breath. To everyone's surprise, Junwoo agreed without hesitation. Yet Junsu launched a personal attack. For Junwoo, their deceased mother was an untouchable wound in his heart. He turned to strike Junsu. Before all the reporters, Junsu showed no restraint. Sara urged Junwoo not to do anything foolish. Junwoo wasn't intimidated by his brother's threats at all. He then stepped onto the stage, intending to reveal the truth. Just then, Ji-yeon entered the venue. Junwoo's previously fearless demeanor instantly turned timid and hesitant. Min-sik, who was also in the venue, noticed Ji-yeon. Junwoo gazed at Ji-yeon, who was looking at him. He recalled Ji-yeon's heart-wrenching cries, her helpless and desperate expression. The words on the tip of his tongue were swallowed back. This action enraged his older brother. Junsu, ignoring the crowd of reporters, Junsu charged forward, yanked Junwoo off the stage, and slammed him to the ground. Reporters in the venue rushed forward with cameras, eager to capture the scene of the rich second-generation brothers fighting. Ji-yeon and Sara were knocked to the ground by the crowd. Min-sik, however, chose to shield Sora. Meanwhile, Junwoo, pressed by reporters, exited the venue, got into a car, and hurriedly left. Min-sik also helped Sora away. As he passed Ji-yeon, he acted like a stranger. Soon after, President Min learned of his eldest son's actions and flew into a rage. He grabbed the wine glass in his hand and hurled it fiercely at Junsu, but the glass unexpectedly struck Min-sik on the head instead. Blood flowed freely, yet he endured it silently. Junwoo found Ji-yeon and carefully bandaged her scrapes. Then he brought her to his private dining room of oneself. He knew Ji-yeon hadn't eaten all day, but wasn't sure of her preferences, so he ordered a wide variety of dishes for her. Seeing Ji-yeon seemed uninterested in eating, Junwoo summoned the head chef. This was the arrogance of a rich kid's son. He clearly wanted Ji-yeon to eat more, yet insisted on presenting himself as one who was unreasonable. Later, after Ji-yeon fell asleep, he thoughtfully covered her with a blanket. But the next day, Junwoo forced Ji-yeon to sign a promissory note promising repayment. His true motive was to keep tabs on Ji-yeon's every move. He then went to Ji-yeon's home and paid off all her mother's debts. From the middle-aged man, he learned news about Ji-yeon's mother. Junwoo then approached Min-sik, offering to hand over the title of good guy. By this point, Min-sik's eyes held no trace of affection. The once passionate lovers had become strangers, exchanging no sweet words upon meeting. He brought Ji-yeon to the place where Sunja was detained. He told Ji-yeon her mother was imprisoned there for fraud. Now that the debts were settled and the house reclaimed, she would see her mother soon. When Ji-yeon asked where he'd gotten the money to pay off her mother's debts, he casually uttered the hardest words for lovers to say, "Let's break up." 6 years of love ended in an instant. Ji-yeon, unwilling to accept it, demanded to know when Minseek's feelings had changed. But Minseek had no intention of explaining. He got into the car and drove away. Her sister's death, her boyfriend's heartless abandonment. Ji-yeon's tears finally flowed uncontrollably. This scene was witnessed by Jun-woo. Sitting in a car nearby, Sunja learned of her youngest daughter's tragic fate the moment she stepped out of prison. Gazing at Jae-hye's urn, she finally shed tears of regret. She couldn't believe that in the mere days that one had been incarcerated, one's youngest daughter had been torn from one forever. Sunja blamed Ji-yeon for rushing the funeral. Crumbling, Ji-yeon confessed to her mother. Jae-hye had taken a job at an illegal employment agency to pay off her debts, and that's how she died. Sunja stared in disbelief. Ji-yeon's words seemed to trigger a memory. She grabbed her bag and hurried away. Sunja tracked down old Kim, the middle-aged man who'd lent her money, and began violently smashing the bag against him. It turned out old Kim had once said to Sunja, "If you need money, send Jae-hye to work in that kind of place." Sunja had dismissed it as a joke at the time. She never imagined her daughter would actually be sent there to earn money to repay her debts. But old Kim insisted that the most important thing now was to uncover the cause of Jae-hye's death, to expedite the investigation into her daughter's death. Sunja groveled and flattered old Kim, yet old Kim was a cunning man, refusing to utter a single word about Jae-hye. Still, Sunja sensed that old Kim must be holding some kind of evidence. Ji-yeon, who was at work, received a notice from her manager to accompany a VIP customer shopping. When she arrived at her boyfriend's side, laden with the wealthy girl's bags, she discovered the man was none other than Minseek, the very person who had just broken up with oneself. Ji-yeon finally understood why Minseek had ended things. Sora selected an expensive suit for Minseek. Ji-yeon interjected, "Sir, he's rather slender. A slim-fit style might suit him better." Sora turned to look at Ji-yeon. She suddenly felt the waitress looked familiar, but couldn't place where she'd seen her before. While Sora was in the restroom, Minseek tried to explain to Ji-yeon, but was cut off. "Don't worry, I'll pretend I don't know you." Returning from the restroom, Sora spotted her fiancé Junwoo in the mall and quickly pulled Minseek away. But Ji-yeon, weighed down by too many bags, stumbled and fell behind them. Junwoo, who happened to be passing by, witnessed the scene. Junwoo made an excuse about needing help and pulled Ji-yeon away, leaving Sora with a look of suspicion. Only then did she recall that the woman earlier was the same one who had appeared at the press conference. Minseek returned to the company and was working when he received a bouquet of flowers and a gift box. Upon opening it, he found a USB drive inside. The contents of the USB drive made even the usually composed Minseek break out in a cold sweat. He never imagined there were other surveillance cameras by the pool. The one threatening him was old Kim, the creditor of Ji-yeon's mother. Old Kim was a middle-aged ne'er-do-well always dreaming of striking it rich overnight. Using Minseek's name, old Kim obtained the surveillance footage secretly installed by staff near the pool. He got the footage of Sora hitting Jae-hye. He knew the one who could profit from covering up the truth was Minseek. Old Kim ordered Minseek to demand 10 billion won from Sora, promising him a 30% cut if successful. Minseek had no choice but to scramble for the money. Junwoo visited the doctor again to inquire about his condition. The doctor informed him there was currently no way to prolong his life. Hearing this, Junwoo no longer felt the rage he had when first learning of his diagnosis. He left the hospital with a bitter smile, deciding to stop thinking about anything. In the time he had left, he would live fully for himself. Just then, Ji-yeon arrived, pleading with Junwoo to help uncover the truth behind her sister's death. Junwoo, in his own genuine desire to protect this girl before him, yet he also felt a deep sense of guilt toward her. Ultimately, he resolved to stay out of Ji-yeon's affairs and distance himself from this place. He would find a quiet spot to spend his remaining time. Sunja sought out old Kim again, trying to pry even a hint of information about Jae-hye's murder from him. But after a few drinks, old Kim passed out drunk, worried about her mother. Ji-yeon came to check on her. Just then, a knock sounded at the door. Ji-yeon and her mother hurriedly hid behind the table. Several thugs walked in. Leading them was none other than Taemin, the owner of the shady agency. Taemin immediately kicked the drunken old Kim awake. Their conversation was heard clearly by Ji-yeon and her mother hiding behind the table. Meanwhile, trouble kept piling up for Minseek. The worker who secretly installed the surveillance found him. He knew Minseek had gotten 10 billion won from the pool incident while oneself got nothing. He threatened to leak the footage on the USB drive. With no other choice, Minseek had to ask Sora for money, without even asking why. Sora agreed. After that night's conversation, she felt herself slowly growing dependent on Min-sik. She was also grateful to this man for covering up the truth for her. Amid the bustling airport, Junwoo stood out as a solitary figure. Glancing around, he knew this might be his last time seeing this place. Just then, Ji-yeon rushed over, blocking his path. "There's surveillance footage from the day my sister died at the pool." Hearing about the surveillance footage, Junwoo hesitated, for he himself had never been certain whether it was indeed himself who had caused Jae-hye's death. Now, he too wanted to uncover the truth of that night. Determined to unravel the matter, Junwoo prepared to offer 100 million won for the footage. Soon after, Old Kim received Junwoo's call. Insatiable, he demanded 1 billion won. He then contacted Min-sik, scheming to profit twice from the video, while Old Kim fantasized about collecting 2 billion won from both Min-sik and Junwoo. Sunja quietly followed him, tracking his movements until she finally located his hideout. The moment they met, she doused him with gasoline she'd prepared in advance, and pulled out a lighter, ready to die with him. Old Kim broke out in a cold sweat and immediately produced the USB drive, but then began stalling again. He claimed his actions were all for Jae-hye's sake, but what Sunja didn't know was that Old Kim's true purpose was extortion. The ever-cunning Min-sik arranged a meeting with Taemin. He promised Taemin 10 billion won if he could retrieve the surveillance footage from Old Kim. Taemin advised that to truly keep the secret, they'd have to eliminate the witness. That evening, Old Kim brought Sunja to the exchange location arranged with Min-sik. Sunja's eyes widened in shock when she saw Min-sik, Ji-yeon's ex-boyfriend, waiting for the deal. Spotting Sunja in the car, Min-sik frantically waved for the truck to stop, but it was too late. Taemin had already rammed the truck into the sedan. Sunja perished in the crash. The relentless blows left Ji-yeon utterly devastated. She locked herself inside for 3 full days, alone with oneself. Junwoo called but got no answer. Knocking on the door yielded no response either, so he climbed onto the windowsill. He tried pounding on the glass while shouting Ji-yeon's name, but the house remained completely silent. He quickly pulled a handkerchief from his pocket, wrapped it around his fist, and began smashing the glass with all his might. After repeated blows, the glass finally shattered. Without hesitation, Junwoo climbed inside, but the next second, he froze. The room was eerily silent. Unbearable memories flooded his mind. As a child, he had witnessed his mother's death in a room just like this. He slowly pushed open the bedroom door, silently praying that tragedy wouldn't repeat itself. Just then, Ji-yeon emerged from the bathroom. Junwoo breathed a sigh of relief. Ji-yeon demanded to know why Junwoo was here. Junwoo shouted back, asking why she hadn't made a sound earlier. Ji-yeon explained she'd been showering and told him to leave immediately. Junwoo tried to say more but was pushed out. Ji-yeon finally broke down, collapsing onto the floor and sobbing uncontrollably. Junwoo's intuition had been spot on, but the ordeal wasn't over. Ji-yeon went to the pool where her sister had drowned. A shot of liquor washed down the memory of playing with her sister. As if it were yesterday, she dialed Junwoo's number, apologizing repeatedly. Then Ji-yeon thanked him for all his help. Junwoo sensed the farewell in her words. He comforted her while sprinting frantically. Suddenly, a speeding car knocked him to the ground. Ignoring the pain in his own self, Junwoo struggled to his feet. His sole thought was to protect Ji-yeon. Junwoo's sudden arrival startled Ji-yeon, but she had no time to question why. Seeing Ji-yeon's unwavering resolve, Junwoo approached her other side and climbed onto the pool deck as well. Junwoo shared with Ji-yeon his painful childhood memory, one that had haunted him for life about himself. Recalling his mother's departure years ago, tears welled up in Junwoo's eyes. Ji-yeon sensed the deep, intense pain buried within Junwoo's heart. Both of them fell to the ground. Though the rooftop steps weren't high, the fall made Ji-yeon suddenly re-evaluate her own life. She moved out of that heartbreaking home and shared a flat with a close friend. On her very first day there, she encountered Junwoo, who had also moved in next door. Each morning, Junwoo had the chef meticulously prepare a cartload of breakfast to be delivered to Ji-yeon's room. Should the chefs falter even slightly, Junwoo would reprimand them. In gratitude, Ji-yeon would invite Junwoo to enjoy dinner she cooked herself. Thus, their feelings gradually grew warmer. Separated by just a wall, they discovered they could clearly hear each other's words. Yet Junwoo remained unaware of the changes unfolding within Ji-yeon. Once she believed she was the only one left in this world, only to find Junwoo had always been by her side, even when he often wore a stern face, ready to scold her. The warmth he brought Ji-yeon was something he himself had never felt. Soon, they began an intensive investigation. Ji-yeon scoured the accident site for witnesses. Junwoo went to Taemin's workplace. From a club hostess He learned Taemin was the one who brought Jae-hai to his room that day, and right after Jae-hai's accident, he received a large sum of money. Meanwhile, the police announced Taemin was the driver responsible for Sunja's death. Junwoo sensed this couldn't be a coincidence. He then pulled Taemin's call records and discovered frequent communications with Min-sik. Meanwhile, Min-sik approached Sora demanding 10 billion won, forbidding her to question the reason. But just as she was about to get out of the car, she couldn't resist asking Min-sik what he needed so much money for. Min-sik said nothing more, instead taking Sora to the home of the security guard who had leaked the surveillance footage. He told the guard that 3 people had already died because of the footage he kept. He dumped a box of cash on the floor, ordering the guard to stay far away from him henceforth. He threatened that if any more trouble arose, both the guard and his family would face retaliation. Sora, standing at the doorway, was utterly shocked. She never imagined the usually mild-mannered Min-sik could utter such words. For the first time, she felt genuine fear toward the man before her. Min-sik demanded, "Do you want to know if I killed those 3? Sora fell silent. She couldn't understand the Min-sik before her. The next day, Sora was back to normal. Not only did she introduce Min-sik to a TV station director, but when they parted, she also gave him a gift. When Min-sik got home and opened it, he was instantly terrified. Inside was the tie he had worn when he killed Taemin. His own tie had fallen off the cliff with Taemin. Yet here it was again. This discovery threw Min-sik, who believed his cover was secure, into panic. He had orchestrated the car accident, sending Taemin to carry it out. Despite Taemin's desperate pleas, Min-sik slowly undid the tie. Then, Taemin fell, but Min-sik still couldn't fathom how the tie ended up in Sora's possession. It turned out Taemin had narrowly escaped death that day. Yet, burdened by 2 lives on oneself, he dared not go to the police. Taemin had no choice but to seek out Sora to expose Min-sik's true nature. Yet even after learning the truth, Sora remained grateful to Min-sik for covering up the pool incident. Even for himself, she had no intention of revealing his actions publicly. She only demanded that he consult her beforehand about future plans. To settle matters, Sora tracked down the hiding Taemin and handed him 1 billion won in cash. She ordered him to leave this place and never show his face again. Ji-yeon witnessed this exchange, clearly recognizing it as some sort of transaction. Determined to uncover the truth, Ji-yeon used Junwoo's connections to secure a job at the restaurant. Sora was visibly displeased with Ji-yeon's arrival. After all, she was still Junwoo's fiancée in name. Ji-yeon promptly took advantage of an unguarded moment to secretly examine documents in Sora's office and slipped a voice recorder into a pencil holder. As she prepared to leave, she unexpectedly overheard a conversation between the Junwoo brothers. Only then did Ji-yeon learn that Junwoo had endured the same pain of losing oneself and others since childhood. Min-sik reflected on the events of the past 2 days. He dared not imagine what might happen if he didn't resolve Taemin's situation quickly. So he went to Taemin's former office. After searching, he finally found a secret ledger hidden in the ceiling. Just as he was about to leave, Taemin attacked him from behind. Taemin clamped his hands tightly around Min-sik's throat. He hated Min-sik with a vengeance. It was this man who had forced him into constant flight. Min-sik pulled out the ledger he'd just found and told Taemin that he could help clear his own name. He then sought out Junsu and handed him the secret ledger. Junsu immediately pleaded for Min-sik's help. If this list were made public, he wouldn't just lose his inheritance, he'd face prison. Ji-yeon learned from reporters that the police had halted their investigation into Taemin. Junwoo also received this news from his lawyer. Evidence showed Taemin had a strong alibi for the entire day of the incident. What Ji-yeon and Junwoo didn't know was that Min-sik had orchestrated everything behind the scenes to fulfill his promise to Ji-yeon and uncover the truth. Junwoo arrived at the police station entrance and publicly admitted in front of the media that ecstasy had circulated at the parties oneself had attended. This move plunged the company into a whirlwind of public opinion. The finger of blame pointed directly at Taemin, the man who killed Ji-yeon's mother. Ji-yeon secretly obtained Sora's phone and sent Taemin a text message using the call log. She told him to meet at the usual spot tomorrow at 6 p.m. He responded quickly, pressured by the media. The police agreed to act the next day. The following morning, a large police force staked out Taemin's usual haunts. Just as officers grumbled that Ji-yeon's presence would slow them down, Taemin slowly approached. Min-sik called, urging Taemin to flee immediately. Officers positioned upstairs swiftly pursued and successfully apprehended Taemin. Upon learning of this, President Min flew into a rage. He had previously spent 10 billion won to have Min-sik handle this matter. Now Taemin, who knew about the pool incident, had been implicated. He couldn't help but doubt Min-sik's competence. Min-sik promised again that he would definitely resolve this matter. President Min ordered Min-sik to immediately handle the Taemin situation. He promised that if Min-sik handled it well, he would give him more money. Junsu, learning of this, also began to stir. He obtained internal police documents, revealing that both Junwoo's and Ji-yeon's cell phone signals were detected near the scene of Ji-yeon's mother's murder. He demanded Min-sik use this to frame Junwoo and destroy him. Based on these clues, Min-sik immediately devised a meticulous plan. Soon, posing as a lawyer, Min-sik arrived at the police station. Following the pre-arranged plan, he pinned everything on Junwoo. He promised a large sum of money after Taemin completed his confession, and arranged for Taemin to escape during his transfer to the police station. If Taemin refused, he would rot in prison. Taemin had no choice but to comply with Min-sik's demands. Subsequently, Min-sik contacted the police officer he had previously bribed. After secret discussions, they reached an agreement. A larger conspiracy was about to unfold. Thus, Taemin made a false accusation against Junwoo at the police station. Later, under Min-sik and the corrupt officer's arrangements, Taemin was placed in a vehicle bound for the prosecutor's office. Junwoo noticed Min-sik's unusual movements through his phone. While investigating Taemin's call records, he had spotted Min-sik's involvement. He was certain Min-sik was connected to Ji-yeon's mother's death. So, just days prior, during a meeting with Min-sik, Junwoo secretly planted a tracking device in his car. Junwoo immediately raced to the location and alerted a journalist eager to expose the pool incident. The police car stopped in a deserted area. Taemin was led to a nearby field. Min-sik was already waiting there. He told Taemin there was no escape, everywhere was a prison. Only then did Taemin realize Min-sik hadn't come to release him. Realizing he'd been tricked, Taemin attempted to flee. Min-sik snatched the officer's gun and shot Taemin down without hesitation. Just as he prepared to fire a second shot, Junwoo arrived and shouted Min-sik to stop. The reporter followed suit, and the officer quickly holstered his own weapon. Facing the reporter's camera, Min-sik caught red-handed claimed, "Suspect Taemin tried to escape. We were merely pursuing him." Watching Min-sik twist the truth like this, Taemin seized the moment to reveal that Min-sik had coerced him into falsely confessing that Junwoo had ordered him to kill Ji-yeon's mother. He never imagined Min-sik would actually try to kill him. Min-sik, however, admitted he had indeed considered it. He then added that even if today's events were broadcast, viewers would struggle to discern the truth. Before leaving, he told Junwoo, "You'd better think carefully about whether to air this or not." Nevertheless, the broadcast aired footage of the reporter's previous follow-up interview with Ji-yeon, alongside a preview clip of today's filming scenes. The full truth would be revealed that evening. Min-sik stared dumbfounded at the TV screen and immediately called the station director. It turned out that just yesterday, the reporter investigating this case had suddenly received news of her reassignment. When she arrived at the director's office door, she saw Min-sik just emerging from the office. All of this was observed by Junwoo. Right after Min-sik left, Junwoo also arrived at the station manager's office. Ji-yeon felt deeply relieved upon seeing the TV news. The moment she had been anticipating was finally approaching. Meanwhile, Junwoo was filled with anxiety, because the evening's broadcast included an interview segment with oneself. In it, he explained that he might be the one responsible for Ji-yeon's sister's death. Recalling his memories with Ji-yeon and the trust she placed in him, he didn't know how he could face her once the truth came out. After a fierce internal struggle, Junwoo decided to confess to Ji-yeon ahead of time. Yet the world works in mysterious ways. Just as Junwoo agonized over how to broach the subject with Ji-yeon, Min-sik and Sora were discussing the very same matter. Min-sik tells Sora that Taemin's arrest could mean all their past cover-ups will be exposed. He passionately declares that he wanted to protect her forever, but now feels powerless. Sora responds that she will take full responsibility for all the crimes. Just as Junwoo prepares to confess to Ji-yeon that it was oneself who killed her sister, he receives an unbearable piece of news. The detention center caught fire, and the perpetrator mysteriously perished in the blaze. The police closed the case hastily. Meanwhile, the so-called Eye of Justice program, which claimed to speak for the underprivileged, was taken off the air. Min-sik, who had committed countless misdeeds, was promoted for his role in covering up the truth. That day, Ji-yeon, looking utterly dejected, received an unexpected visitor at her home. The woman's arrival also brought Ji-yeon hope of uncovering the truth. Seong, Jae-hye's close friend, brought over a blood-stained handbag. This was the bag Sora had discarded after injuring Jae-hye. From Seong, Ji-yeon learned that Min-sik had paid her a large sum to keep quiet and threatened her not to reveal anything. Ji-yeon rushed to have the bag tested and confirmed it bore her sister's blood. She planned to share this discovery with the journalist who had been helping herself, but she was shocked to discover Min-sik and the journalist had been secretly in contact all along. Seeing Ji-yeon suddenly appear, Min-sik and the reporter both looked extremely awkward, but Sora's subsequent arrival made Ji-yeon understand everything completely. It turned out that the reporter who had been helping her had also been placed in the company by Sora after the detention center fire incident, so Ji-yeon could only find Junwoo, the only person she could still trust, and told him the situation. Ji-yeon didn't want to keep it from him and went straight to expose Sora. Hearing Ji-yeon's words, Junwoo felt utterly shocked. Only then did he realize Sora had visited his room that night. But what weighed heavier on him was the fact that Ji-yeon no longer trusted the police or media, only herself. Junwoo then confronted Sora. Faced with the evidence, Sora had to admit that she had indeed been in Junwoo's room that night and injured Ji-yeon's sister. Yet she also stated that as one's fiancé, seeing a scantily clad stranger in one's fiancé's room, one couldn't just stand by. She never imagined that a single blow could prove fatal. Her cover-up stemmed solely from Junwoo's presence in the room at the time. The pair headed to the police station. They were received by the very officer bribed by Min-sik to conceal the truth. The police refused to file a case, citing various excuses. Junwoo felt utterly helpless, unable to assist Ji-yeon further. To gather more clues, he resolved to marry Sora ahead of schedule. Before the cameras of numerous media outlets, he knelt on one knee and placed an engagement ring on the finger of this woman he didn't love. Sora knew Junwoo was putting on a show, yet she still accepted his proposal. That night, Junwoo, drunk out of his mind, arrived at Ji-yeon's doorstep. He poured out his inner torment to Ji-yeon. As he spoke, Junwoo's illness suddenly flared up. He collapsed to the ground, writhing in agony. Ji-yeon dashed out into the pouring rain to find a pharmacy. Just then, a hooded man slipped into Ji-yeon's home. When Ji-yeon returned, she encountered Junwoo, recovered and waiting for her in the rain. Junwoo violently threw the medicine onto the ground and declared, "I don't need this myself." Ji-yeon, furious, demanded why he had come to her if that was the case. Junwoo simply replied, "Because I missed you." Ji-yeon froze in place, seeing Junwoo's dazed expression and hearing his unexpected confession. Ji-yeon felt bewildered and turned to leave. Back home, Ji-yeon discovered 2 memory cards placed conspicuously on her bed. Opening them revealed Junwoo's self-narration from a journalist interview. Only then did she realize the person she'd been desperately searching for, the one in her sister's murder room, was Junwoo. Ji-yeon also learned the truth about her sister's death from Min-sik. When Min-sik revealed Jae-hae had worked to pay off her mother's debts, tears streamed down Ji-yeon's face. She angrily accused Min-sik of covering up the truth for money. Min-sik told Ji-yeon that if he hadn't done it, someone else would have. In a society ruled by the powerful, the poor have no right to demand justice. He hoped that knowing the truth would stop Ji-yeon from fighting a futile battle. Min-sik's words shattered the last remnants of Ji-yeon's illusions. She understood that, like Min-sik said, her struggle wouldn't change anything. She cried out loud, but no one came to comfort her. Junwoo, who was supposed to be helping Sora pick out a wedding dress, was distracted. Ever since parting ways after confessing to Ji-yeon that night, he hadn't seen her again. When Sora emerged in a different wedding gown, Junwoo was nowhere to be found. It turned out Ji-yeon's friend had called Junwoo, informing him that Ji-yeon had left home, leaving only a note behind. Junwoo searched every place Ji-yeon might go and finally found her in a bar. Ji-yeon now sported a completely different look, dressed in a seductive and alluring manner. They say immense pressure can break a person. And Ji-yeon had changed. She declared that the feeling of spending money like water was absolutely exhilarating. Unfortunately, the savings she had painstakingly accumulated over years of part-time work were completely depleted in just 4 days. She now began fantasizing about a life of wealth. She demanded Junwoo take her to experience the lifestyle of the rich. Racked with guilt, Junwoo couldn't refuse. First, she demanded a spacious apartment from him. Then she visited the restaurant where she'd once worked, feasting on premium steak and sipping expensive red wine. Ji-yeon even insisted Junwoo raise the staff's salaries. This deeply upset Sora. She confronted Junwoo, questioning whether his feelings for Ji-yeon went beyond mere atonement. Junwoo flatly denied it, but Sora sensed his concern for Ji-yeon surpassed his care for oneself. Later, Ji-yeon visited a luxury boutique and discarded the watch, a gift from her sister that was oneself most favorite. Naturally, Junwoo settled the bill. Yet the moment she turned away, She tossed the watch like trash to an elderly woman scavenging by the roadside. Junwoo asked her how long this would continue. All he got was Ji-yeon's cold reply, "Until the day I die." That morning, Junwoo was jolted awake by the alarm clock next door. He called out several times to the incessant ringing, but no one answered. Realizing something was wrong, Junwoo deftly unlocked Ji-yeon's door. He scooped up the unconscious Ji-yeon and rushed her to the hospital, completely unaware of Sora standing outside the door. Yet when Ji-yeon awoke, she showed no gratitude, threatening to pull out her four. She demanded Junwoo leave. Sora arrived at the hospital too. Ji-yeon looked at her with arrogance, declaring Sora pitiful. She gloated, revealing the real reason Junwoo wanted to marry her early. It was all because of oneself. Only then did Sora realize Junwoo had proposed to her solely to help Ji-yeon. Her heart shattered completely. She stood frozen in place, utterly lost. No woman could bear such humiliation. The next day, Sora formally requested President Min to dissolve the engagement. Junwoo knew Ji-yeon was behind all this, but he didn't realize this was merely the beginning of Ji-yeon's revenge plan. Ji-yeon forced Junwoo to marry oneself. Soon, the two lay in the same bed. Ji-yeon posted photos of them together on social media, instantly sparking public outrage. Everyone believed Junwoo had been dumped because of this woman. President Min learned of this and immediately dispatched Min-sik to investigate the true reason behind the broken engagement. Meanwhile, Ji-yeon was executing her grand revenge scheme. First, she won over Junwoo's older brother and stepmother. This mother-son duo readily agreed to cooperate. In their view, without Sora, Junwoo stood no chance in the succession battle. Soon, Ji-yeon and Junwoo held a low-key wedding. President Min was furious. Though he tried to intervene, he couldn't change anything. After the wedding, Junwoo and Ji-yeon returned to their so-called home. Though physically close, their hearts remained worlds apart. Knowing his days were numbered, Junwoo resolved to live peacefully. But Ji-yeon had no such intention. Immediately after the wedding, she demanded they sleep in separate rooms. Junwoo was forbidden from entering hers, yet Junwoo still prepared dinner meticulously every day. Ji-yeon, however, remained cold and dismissive. Junwoo understood Ji-yeon's purpose in marrying him. Watching Jisoo enter the room, he could only guard his own loneliness. Soon, with the help of Junwoo's stepmother and eldest brother, Ji-yeon ascended to the position of chairwoman of the Cheon family group's charitable foundation. From then on, she began using her position to perform charitable deeds everywhere. She intended to craft oneself into an angel, because she understood very well that only by possessing sufficient influence would others believe one's words. With Junwoo's cooperation in donating large sums of his fortune fueling the momentum, major media outlets began reporting Ji-yeon's charitable deeds one after another. Upon learning this, President Min severely reprimanded Min-sik. Though he favored this son, he valued the company's interests above all. He must stop this daughter-in-law he did not approve of. Summoning Min-sik, he hinted at eliminating Ji-yeon. He added meaningfully that if Min-sik refused to act, others would. After weighing his options, Min-sik outwardly agreed to President Min's demand. Yet, despite his history of misdeeds, he couldn't bring himself to harm Ji-yeon. Instead, he offered her a large sum to leave, warning her that staying would put her in danger. Of course, Ji-yeon wouldn't heed Min-sik's words. Having come this far, she feared nothing. She exposed the dark secrets she had secretly uncovered about the conglomerate. This action enraged President Min, who immediately fired Min-sik over the phone. That day, while discussing work with Sora in the office, Junwoo suddenly suffered a medical episode. Sora noticed something was seriously wrong with him, but Junwoo didn't reveal his condition to herself. So Sora lied, claiming to be Junwoo's fiancé, and sought out a doctor. Only then did she learn Junwoo had a terminal illness and didn't have much time left. Moreover, this episode had already caused Junwoo to lose 50% of his vision. If he suffered another attack, he would be completely blind. Recalling Junwoo's past words, Sora shed tears of sorrow. All her grievances toward him vanished in that moment. Her sole thought was how to save this man she once loved. After repeated conversations and persuasion, Junwoo finally agreed to seek treatment abroad. Even if there was only a 1% chance, he would give his all to help Ji-yeon. Before leaving, however, he insisted on taking the restaurant staff on a trip together, unwilling to leave any regrets. With everyone's help, they finally managed to invite Ji-yeon to join them. Junwoo prepared small gifts for each employee. He personally placed the necklace he had prepared for Ji-yeon around her neck. a long-lost smile finally graced his face. Ji-yeon, unusually, expressed her gratitude to Jun-woo for his help regarding her sister and mother. This was the first time since their marriage they'd sat so close together. Yet Ji-yeon still couldn't bring herself to say the words forgiving him. Later, Ji-yeon wandered alone through the woods. Suddenly, a figure in black approached from behind, covering her mouth and nose with a towel. Jun-woo discovered his wife's dropped phone in the woods, then spotted a single shoe on the beach. Approaching, he saw Ji-yeon unconscious, floating far out at sea, slowly sinking. Jun-woo sprinted toward her, swimming desperately in her direction. Just as he was about to reach her, his illness struck again. Watching Ji-yeon within arm's reach, he was powerless to reach her. After struggling briefly on the surface, his body slowly sank beneath the waves. Jun-woo's guilt toward Ji-yeon and the love born from that guilt were forever lost in the bottomless depths of the sea. He had fulfilled the wish he made before his life ended, to do everything he wanted to do before losing his sight: to eat together, to travel together. Giving her the necklace, no. Putting the necklace on her. To live is to give one's life for someone. Ji-yeon was brought ashore by the rescue team. Upon regaining consciousness, she saw Jun-woo being resuscitated nearby. Ji-yeon approached in disbelief. Seeing Jun-woo's lifeless form, she finally shed tears, but it was all too late. Jun-woo had departed from them forever. President Min, who learned the news at the funeral, rushed back. He couldn't believe his favorite son was gone like this. His own son. Facing Ji-yeon's accusations, President Min still refused to admit his guilt. Instead, he shifted the blame onto Ji-yeon, as the two argued fiercely. Sora, standing nearby, revealed that Jun-woo had been suffering from a terminal illness. Jun-woo had written farewell letters to everyone, including his father. Though brief, each letter expressed the deepest truths he longed to share from the depths of his soul. After the funeral, Ji-yeon went to the police station demanding an investigation into the truth behind Jun-woo's death. The officers irresponsibly suggested Jun-woo might have taken his own life due to despair over his illness. Ji-yeon angrily declared she would pursue this to the end, calling in media reporters to oversee the investigation. President Min showed no remorse after losing his son. He ordered Minister Woo to bring back Min-sik, whom he had previously abandoned. Upon waking, Min-sik deduced the minister was also behind the attempt on Ji-yeon's life. Minister Woo drew Min-sik's blood with a knife, intending to frame him for the attempted murder of Ji-yeon. But Min-sik wasn't about to go down without a fight. Seizing a moment when the guards were distracted, he launched a sudden attack and escaped. With nowhere else to turn, he swallowed his pride and begged Ji-yeon to take him in. Kneeling on the ground, he tearfully pleaded for her forgiveness and vowed to help her expose the entire truth. Sora, still reeling from Jun-woo's death, also sought out Ji-yeon. She agreed to join them in exposing President Min, but they lacked proof. So Sora confronted President Min, revealing Min-sik had uncovered evidence of all the conglomerate's illegal activities that must remain hidden. Sensing trouble, President Min immediately ordered Minister Woo to move these critical pieces of evidence out of the country. Ji-yeon and Min-sik intercepted them midway and seized the evidence. Soon, President Min and his men tracked them down to their hideout. Just as Minister Woo moved to seize the evidence, Min-sik drew his pistol, temporarily controlling the situation. At that moment, President Min offered Min-sik a staggering sum to buy his silence. If he personally eliminated Ji-yeon right then, he would immediately transfer 10 billion won. President Min then signaled his men to make the payment. Min-sik's phone quickly received the transaction confirmation. Yet President Min then ordered Min-sik to kill Ji-yeon. Unexpectedly, Min-sik aimed the gun at Ji-yeon and pulled the trigger without hesitation. Ji-yeon felt herself falling into an abyss, just as Jun-woo had once felt. But Ji-yeon lifted the corners of her mouth, for soon she would see her mother. Though she would witness Min-sik shoot Ji-yeon with her own eyes, President Min remained uneasy. He paced anxiously in the spacious conference room, until Minister Woo reported that Ji-yeon's body hadn't been found. President Min sensed something was amiss. This was actually part of their three-person plan. Ji-yeon had only been physically injured and was unharmed, already rescued by Sora. It turned out they had secretly installed surveillance cameras inside the house to obtain evidence of President Min hiring a hitman. After recovering, Ji-yeon immediately launched her counterattack. First, She went to an internet cafe and uploaded a video showing President Min instructing Min-sik to kill oneself. Then she went to a crowded plaza and started a live stream. Thanks to the massive popularity she'd built through her high-profile charity work, her live stream drew a large crowd of onlookers and journalists. Here, she demanded justice for the truth behind her sister and mother's deaths. President Min and Sora, having learned of the situation, also arrived at the scene. Before the crowd and cameras, Ji-yeon recounted the tragic misfortunes that befell her sister and mother one after another. She had tried to uncover the truth, but every attempt ended in utter despair. As for her husband, he had been hastily dismissed by the police as a suicide case. Despite drowning, no matter how desperately she pleaded or cried out, no one listened to her amidst the power and privilege. This was the wealthy's utter disregard for the lives of the poor. She pointed the finger directly at President Min. Sora stepped forward to testify. Before, she couldn't comprehend Ji-yeon's helplessness and despair after losing her loved ones. It wasn't until Junwoo's mysterious death that she truly understood. At this point, Sora walked to Ji-yeon and knelt down without hesitation. Ji-yeon shifted her gaze to President Min. President Min still refused to admit any wrongdoing and left the scene amid the crowd's condemnation. But under the strong protests of the justice-seeking citizens, President Min was soon taken away by the police. Ji-yeon thought that with the video evidence, convicting President Min would be easy. Unexpectedly, Minister Woo used the fact that Ji-yeon and Min-sik had once been lovers to claim the video evidence Ji-yeon provided was fabricated solely to extort 10 billion won. Just then, Min-sik appeared in court clutching that 10 billion won. He volunteered to testify and revealed everything he knew about the truth. Sora also appeared in court. She admitted to hitting Ji-yeon's sister. However, when confronted by the judge about setting fire to the detention center and killing Taemin, she claimed she had only used a diversion tactic and Taemin was not dead. Subsequently, the police apprehended Taemin, who was still alive and well. Faced with multiple incriminating testimonies, President Min could no longer deny the charges. Through the court trial, President Min, Minister Woo, Min-sik, and Taemin all received their just punishments. Sora, however, was acquitted as it could not be proven she directly caused Ji-yeon's sister's death. With this, everything had finally settled. Ji-yeon finally opened the letter Junwoo had left for her before his death. Memories of their shared moments flooded back, and Ji-yeon couldn't help but weep. Perhaps only now did Ji-yeon truly regard Junwoo as her husband, one for oneself.